We've talked a lot about parts companies setting up e-commerce stores on this show before. But what about repair shops? Should they have an e-commerce store for their customers? My guest today is Nick Adams, the managing director of Dieselmatic. Now, Nick Adams, he leads Dieselmatic as they are continuing their impressive second year of rapid growth throughout North America by providing a comprehensive marketing solution for heavy-duty repair shops. They specialize in working just with heavy-duty repair shops. They help them from everything from premium websites to the Dieselmatic dashboard, monthly reporting, Diesel Doc articles, and Dieselmatic's solutions are really all aimed at helping the diesel repair industry catch up with the digital marketing world. And one of the things I know about Dieselmatic is they help repair shops find new customers and fill up their bays with lots and lots of work. So I'm very excited to talk to Nick about this subject. Nick, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Jamie. I'm very excited.
So when we think of a repair shop in the heavy duty truck repair industry, and they're doing trucks and trailers, they're offering a service, but oftentimes they're buying parts and installing them, and sometimes they're buying parts and selling them. So what should a repair shop consider before they go out and launch an e-commerce store?
Man, I think we're going to have a good back and forth on this. Maybe we'll do a little bit of like the devil's advocate of whether you should or you shouldn't, because there are definitely different situations in which somebody should consider e-commerce or not. I would say one of the main factors for consideration is where you're at in your business, right? Are you a new shop who is looking to generate another, source of revenue through drop shipping in an e-com? Maybe not the best way to go, right? It's a lot of work unless you have a good understanding of e-commerce systems, ERPs, inventory and management, shipping, managing your website. It's a lot to go into on top of running your repair shop.
That's kind of the point though, right? Is that if you're running a repair shop, your core competency is repairing trucks and trailers, not necessarily everything that goes into selling parts. So you're just about to go into the other side of that. So I'd like to hear what you got to say.
So the other side of it is the side where, you have established your shop and, you have a solid system in place. You're well known within your community. You're not having big ebbs and flows of good months and bad months. You have consistency within your business. And you've started to either specialize into one certain area. Maybe your area is, or your shop, your cat specialists, right? And you're stocking specialty parts. Maybe your inventory has just grown to facilitate the repairs that you're doing. And it's, your inventory is large enough to start considering e-commerce, right? And scaling that side of it. Obviously, everybody's going to line up on one side or the other, somewhere in between those two, and figuring out, where you're at and whether the time and investment is worth it. It's whether you're going to be on one side of the spectrum or the other.
Right. And there's lots of challenges running a repair shop, from the diesel technician shortage all the way through to new technologies coming faster than most repair shops can even keep up with. One of the considerations I think that I would think about is this going to enhance our business, or is this going to actually take away from our core competency and make it harder for us to do the job that we initially set out to do, because we're diverting resources away from that repair shop and getting those trucks and trailers in and out of our shop efficiently? So that's a big concern.
Yeah. And I'm curious too with, the shops that you've worked with more on the heavy duty, like repair side of things, when you've gone into, when somebody's gone from just holding inventory to switching towards e-commerce. We talked about this. I threw some questions into a live you did a couple of days ago. But another big consideration is inventory syncing. if you have your inventory listed in two places, your whatever system you're using for inventory management, and then a separate system of listing all of your products online, you're going to have a nightmare on your hands of like, if you sell something in your shop, you have to update it online. If you sell something online, you have to update it in your shop inventory. So you have to make sure that you have a sync going in between them. And I'm curious, like some of the shops that you've worked with, have you run into that at all before? And what's your experience been like with setting that kind of stuff up?
Hey, listen, Nick, I'm the one who asked the questions on this show, not you.
I'm getting free information here.
So most repair shops that I dealt with, because I was working in as a sales account manager, and we were essentially their warehouse. So they didn't stock a lot of product because, first of all, they didn't necessarily know what parts they were going to need day to day. There was things like brakes and batteries and drums and things like that were almost considered consumables that they just knew they were going to go through. So they stocked some of that. But for the most part, depending on what was diagnosed that day, those are the parts they ordered. And so they would use our parts distribution center as almost like a proxy warehouse for their operation. There were some repair shops that were in larger scale, and oftentimes these were the repair shops that had multiple locations. And to your point, selling parts became a way to add a revenue stream. And so because they had multiple locations, they were managing a lot more inventory, and therefore they had an ERP system that would allow them to have that multi-location inventory management system in place. Now, integration with the ERP to the repair shop system that they're using was always an issue. So like on that live stream, I mentioned Fullbay. They have really emerged over the last couple of years as a dominant player in that space and providing a really next level solution. So I think historically, the IT side of it has been one of the biggest hurdles to overcome. And certainly, I think a lot of the repair shops are just selling parts almost by way of the business that they're in. They have fleets and customers that are coming to them for maybe repairs that the fleets can't do themselves. And sometimes an owner operator or a fleet might call them up and say, hey, we're looking for this part. Can you supply it? And they would take that sales order on the phone, not really through e-commerce. So that's why I wanted us to have this kind of discussion, this roundtable discussion about it, because that question of should repair shops even get into e-commerce this is an absolute must if you're in the business of just selling parts. But if you're primarily in the business of repairing equipment, where does it fit, and when should you do it? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't have a heavy-duty part number and need to look up a part? Diesel Parts is a cross-reference and parts lookup tool that makes it easier to identify heavy-duty parts than ever before. Go to parts.diesellaptops.com or download the app on Apple or Android to create your free account. We're back from our break, and before the break, we were really analyzing whether or not repair shops should get into the e-commerce side of the business. And Nick had some good suggestions, and he threw some questions at me, which is kind of funny because I'm the host. I'm supposed to ask those questions, but I love the fact that we can have this two-way conversation. So Nick, what I'm really curious about is what's at stake for the repair shop when evaluating this decision and deciding whether or not to go into the e-commerce side of the business and start selling parts. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, to kind of tie it all together, there's a kind of a middle ground of, not doing e-commerce or doing full e-commerce, and that's doing like a pseudo e-commerce. So talking to customers on the phone, placing an order over the phone, it works, right? But tying in more systems of communication with your customers is always better. So a pseudo e-commerce is something that you can set up where your parts are listed on the website, but they're listed just with a contact form. So a good example, I'll share here, Adrenaline Diesel. So they are a heavy duty shop in Alberta, Canada. So what we've done for them is set up a parts section where you can search by engine manufacturer. So let's say, someone knows that they need some Cummins parts.
So Nick, I'm just going to describe for those that are listening. Maybe you're listening on TNC radio and you're driving down the highway. So what he's shown is he's shown the website. In the top menu, there's a part section. When you click on that, it creates a drop-down menu. There you can see the different engine manufacturers. From there, let's say you pick Cummins, and now you're seeing on the screen the different Cummins models.
Perfect. And then you click in, you choose your model, and then you're seeing, all right, I'm searching, like I know I'm on the right page. I'm searching for ISX series engines, and then a general list of cylinder heads, EGR coolers, fuel systems, manifolds, turbos. What we've done with Adrenaline Diesel is just kind of left it here. You can go another step and, specify specific parts within those categories. But what we've done is, just make it very clear. You can put a little tag here where you have, Braden is there, outside sales, all his contact info. And then if you go onto any of them, that'll call directly to him, or you go to a get pricing screen and then you send an inquiry based on what you're looking for. So that's kind of the middle ground pseudo e-commerce that allows you to list your parts on your website and have customers contact you based on them without having to go through the whole process of setting up a true e-com system, syncing it with your inventory, and worrying about, incoming shipping, managing inventory levels, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great step, right? You can start off where maybe you don't even touch parts, and then you can say, okay, we're established, we're to the part where we are selling some more parts. Now we list it in the way that you just showed as an interim step. And then as the business expands further, then you can look at implementing a true e-commerce platform where people can just, one click and order, and then you handle fulfillment. Nick, let me talk about the situation that I think a lot of repair shops would find themselves in, which is that perhaps there's some fundamentals around their website and their marketing that they haven't put in place yet. And e-commerce is 2 or 3 or maybe 4 steps down the road. So let's talk about those fundamentals. What fundamentals should they be focused on before they ever even consider listing parts or adding e-commerce to their site?
A little bit of background into Dieselmatic and, why we do what we do, how we kind of got into the heavy duty industry. One of the first shops that we worked with, well, they were started out around 500,000 a year ARR. And after about 2 years, I think we got them to 2.5 million. When it really clicked for me, the owner moved from a 750 square foot house to a 3,500 square foot 2-acre property. And I realized that these small things that we do for marketing in the heavy duty space, it makes a really drastic difference. And the industry as a whole, lags because you're forced a lot of the time to work with a local marketing company that probably doesn't know the industry very well. It wastes a lot of your time trying to explain things to them, teach how to do what you do, explain to them what an EGR is. So some of those things, if you're that person who's working with a local company, some of the things that you can ask them to make sure that they, know what they're doing is ask them about your services and how they want to articulate them. One of the things that we do that makes the biggest difference is breaking down services into individual service pages. So having a service page, not just your services listed in a bullet point form, but having your services listed on an individual page with information about that service, timeline recommendations of how often, brakes should be repaired. If you're Canadian CVIP inspections, if you're American DOT inspections, how the process goes, what, the general pricing is, all of those kinds of things make a drastic impact on your local search rankings. So where you show up in organic Google search results and Google Maps results, depending on people's proximity to you. So that would be the number one thing that, we recommend.
Okay. I got a question about that. So if you have one main service that you offer but you offer it in a lot of different locations. Should you build location pages for that one service? So for example, I only offer one service, but I do it in 6 different cities. So should you build individual landing pages for each of those cities in that situation? And then conversely, if you do a lot of different services, should you have each individual service on its own page and also location pages? How do you handle that?
Yeah. So the way that we recommend doing it is you have service pages, right? So if you have, whatever, 10 to 20 different service types that you offer, everything from, just really splitting them up: brake service, transmission, engine rebuilds, making sure that everything is articulated. So listing all those out as service pages. And then on those service pages, listing your service areas, right? So if you have locations, then linking those locations to location pages. Each of those location pages are separate. And then on each of those location pages, vice versa, you list the services that you offer at that location. If you want to, can show another example. I know people are probably listening. Cool. So this would be a good example: specialized truck repair in Tennessee and Mississippi. So lots of locations. So listing all their services, right? Nice and simple. Let's say we have engine diagnostics, an individual service page. So heavy truck engine diagnostics, a little bit of information about it, a form to book and contact the shop, customer reviews and social proof. And then conversely, we have locations. So listing out each and every location. And then within that location, we have a list of the services that they offer at that location.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And for those listening who may not understand this, Google is always updating their algorithm. So, that being the main search engine that we're always targeting for search traffic. And one of the big changes in 2021 was Google stopped looking at entire websites and started looking at individual pages. So now each individual page is being ranked. And so that's why this strategy is so important, because it enables, one person told me that Google's kind of like the AI is kind of like a child. If you have all the pieces of the puzzle in a box, but they're all mixed up, you've got to show Google the picture of what your business is all about. And then Google will take all those pieces and put it together and then put you on like the top of a search query for your service in your location. And so that you get that organic traffic. So I see that this strategy is important. A lot of people often say to me, and I don't work with repair shops as often on the consulting side. For me, it's mostly heavy duty parts manufacturers, but principally it's the same situation where they say, that's a lot of content. And it's like, yes. And that's what your website needs to perform well.
It needs a lot of content. It needs people. Search engines have evolved to be better for people, not for search engines, right? So the old systems of gaming search engines by just stuffing them full of keywords, it doesn't work, right? The things that work is creating content that is actually valuable to people, content that people want to read, making your site logical to be able to navigate, to get to whatever the customer wants to do. Do they want to make a call? Do they want to send an email? Do they just want to get information? All of those things, those are the things that make a difference. Like you're saying, Google's updates are much more based on the amount of time that people spend on your website. So if they spend more time reading interesting content, it's probably a more valuable website than your local competitors.
Yeah. So I think that the reason that I wanted to go into this part of the conversation was just to demonstrate to any repair shop owners who are listening, the fundamentals here on your website are so important. And if you haven't even begun, if a lot of this is sounding kind of like overwhelming and maybe a bit confusing, it probably is a good indication that you're not ready for e-commerce. For more advanced organizations who've done all these fundamentals, they've got a great lead generation system. They're busting at the seams for work, and there's all this opportunity to sell parts. That's when overlaying another system and adding to it can create this second revenue stream. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the customer and the buying experience when we come back from our break. We'll be right back. When repairing a diesel engine, it is essential to only use high-quality engine parts. AFA Industries manufactures OEM quality complete in-frame kits, replacement engine parts, and seals and gaskets for diesel engines at great aftermarket prices. To learn more, go to afaindustries.com where you can request them to direct you to a local distributor. Check out afaindustries.com today. We're back from our break, and before the break, we were talking about the fundamentals of your website and what you need to consider before you would ever even consider e-commerce. Nick, I want to talk a little bit about the customer's experience. So small fleets, regional fleets, owner-operators who are coming to the repair shops to get repair work done. How can a repair shop create a frictionless buying experience? Because it seems like where we are headed is all about making it super easy to do business with you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Man, yes. I always have thoughts on it. My best recommendation, and something that is not technical, when you're in the early stages of designing the framework of your website and the layout, bring your website on your phone to your parents. Give your parents your phone and watch them try to do something that you tell them to do. Tell them to book an appointment, or tell them to, try to call the shop. Can they do it? Do they stumble? It is our job is to make sure that those kind of user interactions happen smoothly. And it is one of the most frustrating things when you watch somebody who is in their 60s or 70s try to navigate the website, and they just can't. They can't get to where they need to be. So that's always a really easy one to to make sure that what you've laid out actually does what you want it to do.
This really resonates with me because about 45% of our listeners have subscribed to our email. They get the weekly email, and then it's a one click for them, and they listen or watch the podcast directly on heavydutypartsreport.com. Why do they do that? Why is because they really don't want to figure out how to use a podcast player, or they might be on YouTube, but that's not where they're going to listen. So quite a large portion of our audience does that. So if you haven't done that, go to heavydutypartsreport.com. Right on the homepage. It's very easy. Just put in your email address and you'll get that weekly email where you'll get notified of the next episode. So I certainly, as a podcast host, had to figure that out and make it as simple as possible.
That's how I've listened to them. It's way nicer than having to go through to Spotify or Apple and pull them up. I mean, once you get to the point of a listener being a regular listener and they're subscribed to it in their platform, that works. But it's nice that you have it straight one click through email right to the website where you can listen.
Yeah. And so principally why I brought that up is because that's in line with what you're talking about, is that we have to consider the customer. Who is your customer? Are they trending towards younger people who want to be on one platform or another? Are they still, people who are traditionally been in the industry for many decades, and they're going to want to get access to information about your repair shop in a different way? You've got to understand what your customer wants. And as those customers change, their requirements and their expectations are going to change, and then you can adapt. But it always starts with that, asking yourself that question, like, what's good for my customer?
Exactly. And understanding the customer journey. So one of the most common customer journeys is, whether you're on the part side of things or the service side, a customer is going to search what they're looking for, a part or a service. They're going to click on, one or three of the top 3 to 5 results, organic results or ads that come up. So you want to make sure for organic results that your website is ranking well for SEO. For ads, you want to make sure that you're running Google ads in, effective campaigns. Once the user clicks on the website, they're going to go to your website and a couple others. They're going to decide, whether or not your business provides the product or service that they're looking for. And then, and this is the important part, they are either going to take an action or not, right? So they are either going to call your shop or send an email. If they do not do that, and this is where most shops stop and don't think about it anymore past that, if they don't take an action, maybe they're not ready to buy that part right now. Maybe, they're looking for service in a month from now. What you want to do is continue to have your brand and your business be top of mind for them. So your business website should not just be a brochure that sits there. There should be a lot of data collection and analytics that are going on in the background that collect that user data and then reserve them ads and target them based on them visiting your website. So what we do is, if a customer comes to the website and doesn't take an action, we will reserve them branded ads on, social media platforms, through the Google Display Network, that articulate your business, the service offerings, what they were looking at, social proof, customer reviews, to make sure that when they get to that point of service decision, that it's an easy choice for them, right? Your brand credibility has already been built up. They trust you because they've seen you, and they come back and take that action. So those are important steps to be thinking about and setting up in the customer buying journey and process.
If someone is thinking to themselves, this is way over my head, this seems really complicated, obviously one thing they can do is hire someone like you. But what's the economic impact of doing nothing? Where is the trends going, and how much could that actually be costing a repair shop?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we don't have the data on the people who don't take action. We just have the data on the people who do take action. The best kind of stories, I mean, you can always go to dieselmatic.com and check out our case studies of customers and the results that they've seen. There are two conversations you can have with that, either anecdotal or analytical. So on the analytical and data side of things, it's significant. I would say on average, we see a 20 to 30% quarterly increase in the amount of traffic and inquiries going to Dieselmatic partners. Just really quickly breaking that down, that means that if your average RO is $1,200 to $1,500, that means with a 35% profit margin, you're somewhere between $350 and $500 profit per customer. Increasing those customers by 30% quarter over quarter, is going to mean, at minimum, depending on where you are, 5 to 10 new customers a month on top of that, which means you're in the $5,000 to $10,000 profit increase.
That's profit.
Profit's the thing that matters, right? And that's the big thing that we care about. We do a lot of our Dieselmatic dashboard and monthly reporting gives profit-based return on investment numbers, because if you're not making more money than you're paying the marketing agency to market your shop, then neither of you are going to grow, right? We're not going to continue to grow because you're going to fire us. And then that's the way it should be. And so the other side of things is the anecdotal side of things, thinking about yourself, how you interact with other businesses, how people interact with other businesses. It's digital, right? For the most part, let's say you want to grow the emergency road service side of your business. That's happening on the phone. And not necessarily phone calls. People are looking on their phone, broken down on the side of the road, and searching Google for emergency road service near them. So having marketing strategies, having a digital presence that is geared towards understanding those customers, like we've been talking about, and how they experience their service or parts buying experience happens, is economically very, very important.
You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and we've been speaking with Nick Adams, the managing director at Dieselmatic. To learn more about Dieselmatic, visit dieselmatic.com. Links will be in the show notes on the site. If you'd like to grow your diesel repair shop with the industry's newest secret weapon, Dieselmatic, now is the perfect time. Dieselmatic is offering special discounts for the Heavy Duty Parts Report listeners. To get your discount, visit dieselmatic.com and schedule a call now. Links are in the show notes so that when you click that link, they'll know you're coming from the Heavy Duty Parts Report. But it does help if you mention that you came from the show as well. So visit dieselmatic.com today to get your special discount. Nick, thank you so much for taking some time to talk about this important subject and being on the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I was glad to have you here.
Thanks so much, Jamie, and thanks for answering my questions too.
Would you like to buy any of the parts discussed on the Heavy Duty Parts Report? Head over to heavydutypartsreport.com/buy parts today. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to subscribe to the Heavy Duty Parts Report YouTube channel and click here to watch another great episode.